Malala and the ANC resolved that more resources and more efforts must be channeled towards eradicating or controlling the wide spreading of this merciless disease called HIV/AIDS. Bantu bakuthi sithi urhulumente uwa evuka nani kunzima ibudget ihlala ingenelanga ukwenza zonke imfuno zenu kodwa siyaqhuba xa sibambisene kuzolunga kancane kancane phambili kona siyaya asinamona asinanzondo asinavalo siyayidumisa iANC ngokulwela impilo engcono kubantu bakuthi abangathathi ntweni. Siyacela ke bantu bakuthi xa ogqirha bethi idlani amapilisi noba ngawantoni na makadliwe ungawayeki xa ubona ngathi ungcono. Abantu abaninzi batshona kungafanelanga batshone bavele bayeke ukutya amapilisi bathathe ezinye izinto ezigqibela zibabulala. The last two outcomes that I want to conclude with will be number 8, which is dealing with sustainable human settlement and improved quality of life, and number 13, which deals with comprehensive, responsive, and sustainable social protection systems. Sekela Somlomo, honorable members and the people of South Africa, these outcomes analyses are undisputed proof that indeed, under President J.G. Zuma's leadership and coordination, the people, in particular the working class and the poor, remain a top priority. To date, South Africa is declared #1 government in the world in terms of human settlement delivery. We have now delivered about 4.7 million housing opportunity throughout the country. To those who spend sleepless nights plotting and planning propaganda using their own media against the head of state, President J.G. Zuma, they must now eat their humble pie. The NEC of the ANC has gone and passed. Here we still have our president. These big housing projects are too huge and stretch over vast areas and make it difficult even for our detectors to deny. And these become visible portfolios of evidence as the result of integrated planning, policy coordination, and coherence, contributing to the realization of Vision 2030 with the president at the helm of it all. As the ANC, we support this budget. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mutal.
Deputy Speaker, Mr. President, Deputy President, under the misleadership of President Jacob Zuma, South Africa seems to be hurtling uncontrollably towards becoming a failed state. While the ANC of the late President Nelson Mandela was leading the people of this country from the land of bondage towards the promised land of our dreams, the Zuma ANC is inexorably rushing South Africa towards political and economic bankruptcy. However, Mr. Zuma is not doing this by himself. This point was made potently by the leader of the DA, but it's worth underlining. He is being aided and abetted by ANC cabinet ministers and members of parliament. While they must share the blame for the parlous state in which this country finds itself, President Zuma must take the full blame and responsibility for the catastrophic mess. Each time the Democratic Alliance moved for the removal of president from office, the ANC members used the tyranny of their majority in this House to protect, defend, and entrench him in office. Honorable members, I have made this point previously from this very podium. that Mr. Zuma should never have been president of this country, and that he should have announced his resignation from office on the 1st of April 2016, following the devastating Constitutional Court judgment handed down against him regarding Kandla on the 31st of March 2016. Sadly, he did not resign and defiantly showed the political middle finger to the supreme law of the land, that is the Constitution, and the Constitutional Court that had found against him. I count myself among those who hold the view that, and I quote, "A man without shame is dead man walking," close quote. I believe President Zuma is such a man. Legend has it that those whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make rich, and I'm taking poetic license here, and then they make them mad. The question is, do the gods wish to destroy President Zuma? Judge for yourselves. If the omens are anything to go by, the answer is there for all to see. The writing is in the papers, cell phones, tablets, and in the protest marches in the streets of our country, and the booing at rallies. The good people of this country are on their feet, walking the streets and raising their voices to the chorus, and I quote, "Enough is enough, Zuma must fall," close quote. The people are speaking and they will be heard. Nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. Meanwhile, this parliament is being asked to approve a budget of over 500 million rand for 2017-18, and this will rise to 557 million rand by 2019-20 for the presidency. The budget also provides 3.4 million rand for the salary of Mr. Zuma for this financial year, growing to 3.9 million rand by 2019-2020. For the Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, the corresponding numbers are 2.9 million rand, growing to 3.3 million rand. Note, both these salaries have been increased by 100,000 rand each from the previous financial year. The DA maintains that in the current economic climate, there is no justification for increases to executive salaries. The DA calls for a freeze on executive salary increases, particularly for the President and his deputy. Honorable Deputy Speaker, some honorable ANC members of this House who have designated themselves as President Zuma's vocal defenders and protectors from time to time accuse DA members of hating President Zuma. When we criticize his economically destructive actions and challenge him to account. Minister Malusi Gigaba, I don't see him here now, is among those who have made this false accusation. This falsehood was repeated by ANC Chief Whip, Honorable Jackson Tembu, yesterday in this very House. I have news for you, read my lips. We in the DA do not challenge and criticize President Zuma's reckless actions because we hate him, as my colleague, Honorable Mike Waters, said yesterday. However, we hate it when the President treats the highest court in the land with contempt. We hate it when he treats us and the rest of the people of this country, including members of the ANC in this House, as idiots who have to live with the consequences of his destructive behavior. We hate it when the President tells us that, and I quote, "The same people that are accusing me are the ones that are stealing, and I know exactly what they are stealing. I know who they are," close quote. Months have gone by, and we are still waiting for the President to tell us who are these criminals. We hate it when we read in the media on a Sunday morning, like we did this last Sunday, something like this, that one President, Jacob Zuma of South Africa, could be hightailing it to Dubai with loot from the coffers of the poor people of this country. We hate it when we are bombarded with information that he has been captured by people who are emptying the state coffers of this country. This means that millions of South Africans will continue to wallow in poverty and misery while he and his captors live at large. Most of all, we hate it when he makes monumental blunders that cost the country's economy billions of rand in lost asset value as was the case when he fired former finance ministers Nhlanhla Nene and Pravin Gordhan and Deputy President SABC Jonas. We hate it when we are expected to just lump such disastrous decisions because, as they say, it is his presidential prerogative. Presidential prerogative cannot and must not be exercised to the detriment of the country's economy and at the expense of the more than 9 million unemployed and poor South Africans. Prerogative is a privilege. It comes with responsibility, it comes with respect, it comes with accountability. We hate that the country lives in fear of a possible sovereign ratings downgrade to junk status by the international rating agencies because of his ill-conceived actions. Honorable members, one of the most important jobs of the presidency is to nurture and promote nation building, social cohesion, and national identity. Some of the members on this side refer to this. However, under the Zuma administration, all the indices regarding this are pointing down, very disastrous. When was the last time we heard of the rainbow nation of the people of South Africa? The official commemorations to which one of the members here referred to of our national days like Human Rights Days, Freedom Day, and the others have degenerated into ANC rallies, with many South Africans feeling alienated and staying away. In short, the nation-building project, which started with such great promise, is a mess under the Zuma ANC. Statistician General Padile Hodla has warned that the country faces a cocktail of disasters because of the very high numbers of unemployed black and colored young people. Please, Mr. President, listen, hear, and heed the warning. Where are the jobs you have been promising the nation, Mr. President? Xenophobia remains a festering sore in our social and economic fabric. Service delivery protests have become endemic and violent. Corruption is rampant in the public service. Recent months have seen an increase in number of young women being murdered by their boyfriends or males they know. Children are no longer safe in our streets, both black boys and girls. Rape is rampant. Cry, the beloved country, cry. But not all is lost yet.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Member. Yes, Honorable Member.
Is the member ready to take a question, especially around violence against women and children?
Honorable Matau, would you take a question?
I'm tempted to say yes, but I don't want to do that.
Because it's more prevalent in the DA-run province of the Western Cape.
Honorable Member.
Cry, the beloved country.
It's not allowed. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
But not all is lost yet. And this one is for you, Honorable Mafu. This one is for you. Elections 2019 are around the corner. President Zuma and his ANC will fall.
I'm afraid your time has expired, sir.
Woza election 2019, woza.
Honorable Groenewald.
Agbare adjunct speaker, in 1995, toe die Springbokke die Wêreldbeker gewen het, was daar baie groot optimisme in Suid-Afrika. Almal het geglo in die droom van die reënboognasie. Veral van die wites in Suid-Afrika was daar 'n welwillendheid om Suid-Afrika te bou vir die toekoms. 'n Welwillendheid om hulle bydraes te lewer om Suid-Afrika 'n beter plek te maak van wat hy is. 'n Welwillendheid om nie met arrogansie of met bevoorregting of met spesiale behandeling gehanteer wou gewees het nie, maar met ywer om Suid-Afrika te bou. Maar daar's 'n ontnugtering. 'n Groot ontnugtering het ingetree. And Honorable Deputy Speaker, through you, I want to say to the Honorable President, Honorable President, Section 83C of the Constitution determines that you, as President, must promote unity in South Africa. But what are you doing? When you talk, then you say that the problems in South Africa started when Jan van Riebeeck landed in 1652. When you talk, you say it is because of white monopoly that you have your problems. And you hear your colleagues, they applaud you for that. When you talk, you tell the people of South Africa, specifically the black people, that you are poor, you are unemployed, there is inequality because the white people have stolen the land. That is what you say. Your Honourable Minister for Social Development even goes so far and blaming the white journalists of South Africa because of the SASA scandal. Now, Honourable President, are you then surprised, for instance, that your Premier in Northwest, if he have a funeral of a tragic event, that he uses race and say it is white farmers that has killed the boy? What has happened to the rule of law? Don't you respect that? Therefore, I want to say to you, Honourable President, that you are promoting racial polarization in South Africa. And I want to repeat, the white people of South Africa don't ask special treatment. They don't ask for privileges. What they ask is only equal rights, equal treatment. And Honourable President, I want to ask you, if you answer tomorrow, tell the white people of South Africa, what do you expect from them? Not about the history, we know the history. What do you want the white people of South Africa, what they must do to ensure that you will be satisfied to make a contribution in the building of South Africa, so that the white people of South Africa can know where they stand with you? Please, for one time in your life, be honest with the white people of South Africa. I thank you.
Honourable Phelps.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Your Excellencies, the President of South Africa, the Deputy President, honourable colleagues, comrades, and most of all, people of South Africa, because I wish to share these thoughts with my fellow countrymen and women. It is 23 years since we celebrated the advent of political freedom and constitutional democracy. However, it remains an indictment on all of us that the majority of black people continue to be economically disempowered, and that there is the emergence of economically polarized classes. The majority of South Africans are dissatisfied with the gains from liberation that a few have achieved, including myself. No, this is not the opportunity to shift blame here, there, everywhere. It's not me, it's it's them, it's us, etc. There can be no sustainability in any economy, and that's a reality, if the majority is excluded. We have seen this expressed not only in earlier slave revolutions in Rome, peasant, middle-class revolutions, the French, the Russian, but in modern history, and more recently, in global riots. People are rising against the unfair distribution of wealth in their countries. The objective in our struggle in South Africa, as set out in the Freedom Charter, encompasses economic emancipation. It is inconceivable for liberation to have a meaning without a return of the wealth of the country to the people as a whole. As Oliver Regional Tambo put it, that to allow the existing economic forces to retain their interest intact is to feed the roots of racial supremacy and exploitation, and does not even represent a shadow of the liberation. We need all of us to work together to drive towards inclusive national emancipation that must include what Oliver Tambo referred to as economic emancipation. I remember Walter Sisulu, the great stalwart, when he came out of jail after all those years. I was translating for him, doing the Russian translation, and he said, never forget, my comrade, never forget, put people first. If it's ideology or people, put people first. The budget of the presidency is focused on results-based performance, monitoring the planned outputs and outcomes of prioritized policies and the commitments, and evaluating measurable objectives identified in the President's strategic plan. This means, Mr. President, Your Excellency, that as the captain of this ship, sailing in stormy seas, you are responsible not only to steer our ship, but also to instruct your ministerial lieutenants to account effectively for their performance and their respective outcomes in this results-based budget. The budget of the presidency in a time of tight budgeting is focused on value for resources, and this depends on an accountability chain. We know that public accountability and engagement with the people, with civil society, captains of industry, and generals in business, that this enhances the legitimacy of governance and underpins your role, Mr. President, as the custodian of the dreams, not only of the youth, but of all South Africans. Honourable Speaker, this budget offers the President an opportunity to ensure that members of Cabinet are brought into line with what is already mapped out in the budget and to account for outputs and outcomes. I'm aware that it is the DGs who account for the outputs, but it is the executive officers who account for the outcomes themselves. You know, oversight has got many meanings. I mean, we do a lot of that in Parliament, Honourable Speaker. And I often wonder, do we mean oversight, you know, S-I-T-E? We go there, gee man, it's a night out, and I mean a decent meal, and oh, a little sip of wine and what else. And when we look at the site, no, that is not oversight, okay? And unfortunately, sometimes oversight is misinterpreted to mean ministers simply overlook or miss out on key issues linked to service delivery for radical economic transformation. We cannot afford to use oversight in this manner, neither in the executive and the presidency or here in Parliament. We are, after all, the voice of the people. Scrutiny as part of oversight is not a spontaneous spark lit in wet weather during times of crises, but rather a sustainable process within a developmental state. So, what do we mean by radical socio-economic transformation? We do mean the transformation of structures, systems, institutions, patterns of ownership, management, and yes, the control of the economy in favor of all South Africans. the majority of whom are poor and most of all are females, women. And no economy can be said to be inclusive if it ignores women. The presidency has had his conversations with a number of people in business and the farmers all over. He's had these conversations. And you know what? The captains of industry are not opposed to transformation, not at all. What they are opposed to are the nuts and the bolts, the process and the measures. Mr. President, in your SONA address this year, you said we would like to see more black people involved directly in business, owning factories. The response of your ministers in the economic cluster, I see some of you still weathering the storm here, together with development finance institutions such as the IDC, more recently the National Empowerment Fund, have concretized the Black Industrialist Program. A couple of examples will illustrate how successful this will be because of what has happened. Well, so you should speak more often to your colleagues. We were on an oversight earlier this year. Went all around some of the places we visited. I was amazed to learn. I was unfortunately away out of the country because my daughter has cancer. But I learned both from the opposition and ANC members of the good news. Guess what? There is 100% black industrialist, a black-owned foundry, a foundry. Now, yes, that is a first, and it is exactly what we need. The Naledi Foundry is the largest black-owned foundry in South Africa. I won't, if I have the time, I will come back to what it actually produces. And to illustrate how effective oversight is, well, some of our state-owned enterprises don't always come willingly to the party, as it were. You know, you have to drag them, encourage them, give them a sweet or two. But then when they do come, they come in, boots and all. So we learned that they had got, Naledi Foundry was, although they'd won the tender, had not actually got the orders for the tender. You see how these things are broken down. You get the tender. Great, man, you celebrate. No order. So, well, we called them in because Parliament is the voice of the people. And in this Parliament, a number of committees, Mr. President, are performing excellent oversight work. And we said, and we were told, oh, can't make it, pressing meeting. I said, pressing? I've never actually summoned anyone, but I will. Well, they came, you know. I also had a word with the minister. And they came, and suddenly it was all right. So that tells me, Mr. President, the fact that you've got the Minister of Development, Planning, is that what it's called? Planning, monitoring and evaluation, right in the presidency. You're going to be actually able to wield your own whip there. All right? Now, now it's not all about industry. We all know South Africa is a nation of lovers of dogs. And I want to tell you, the reason why Gauteng legislature, all of them, the legislators own Labradors is because I gave them Labradors and they love them. Now, what we have is we have the first K9, KK9, what a clever way, pet foods represented by, are you not interested in what women own? Miss Candace Stewart, but you're not interested, and I suggest the women in the DA start taking a stand. Echoing the clarion call of Oliver Regional Tambo in 1981, the President confirmed that the collective decision of Cabinet was that it is imperative to start a new chapter. A chapter that would decisively shift from the past slow pace of change and implementation of policy. Yes, we are now going through this new chapter. And what I can say is that if we all put our shoulder to the wheel, we can achieve it. Consequently, he said, the state will employ more realistic and practical measures. And I've seen this now slowly beginning to happen, that all of the strategic levers available are being used. It is not only legislation and regulation and licensing, etc. It is, very importantly, it is public procurement. This is a very sharp instrument. Let's use it more effectively. In a developmental state with an inclusive economy, both men and women need to be able to reach their full potential. The Presidency is intent on creating an enabling environment for human capital, the youth, men and women.
Killing trees off.
So what's going to happen now?
Sorry, what is REM 1?
So the remote one. Yes. So we're staying in Parliament until further notice. Is it called fold back or fall back?
Only today I spoke at the launch of a SABC office in the middle of Cape Town, just past Woolworths. And the number of white businessmen there who said, wow, it's great to have, is this part of the fourth industrial revolution? You know, these monitors, etc. You walk in, takes you no more than 10 minutes to sort out everything. No, and on top of it, for those who are not as effective on that system, including myself, there's someone there that you can say, hello, can you give me a hand? So that's great. Now, it is this kind of state, Mr. President, and honourable members, colleagues, that will defeat poverty, unemployment, and inequality. And I believe that this kind of state, which is reskilling older people, skilling strategically the youth, and optimizing their focus, is ready and preparing for the fourth industrial revolution. Now, I came from a farm and my mother spoke fluent Zulu. She translated the English Bible into Zulu. And she always used to say to my brothers, Inkunzi ise matoleni. The bull is among the calves, sending them out to their father to sort out. Again, the mind of a man is elevated to the status of the woman. And just listen, men. The mind of a man is elevated to the status of a woman he associates with, according to Alexandra Dumas. Therefore, it is important that men meet women on equal terms in the workplace, in the educational place, and of course at home where they complement each other. It is very important that we reframe our perceptions of women. The role of women, many have said, politicians, as well as activists, as well as yourselves, is intrinsic to an inclusive economy. An African proverb best sums this up, talking about the value of women. You see, when you educate a man, let's be frank, you educate an individual. Now, when you educate a woman, you educate the nation. Right, never forget that. Right. Now, as members, of Parliament, we are always interested in what new is happening. And it was interesting to see your reference, Mr. President, to the, I think it is the Competition Act of 1998, because this will truly benefit people, the ordinary person, especially the poor. It will, among others, address the need to have a more inclusive economy and to deconcentrate the collusion by big companies and exploitation of our people we see in many sectors. Then, of course, dare I say, where one is deployed, where one is located, there is the National Credit Act, and various amendments are under consideration. Let us never forget it was the National Credit Act that enabled South Africa to weather the worst global financial crisis created, of course, by America, and it continues to promote a fair and non-discriminatory marketplace where all consumers can gain access to credit. There's also Operation Pekisa, working with the National Development Plan. It is a rapid results delivery program. It actually is a strategy which reflects its COSA, meaning hurry up, eh? The implementation of the plans are rigorously tracked. Recently, South Africa was downgraded, and no, none of us were pleased about that. But this gives us a great opportunity to grow the economy. How? By encouraging and promoting local procurement. This will cut imports of the product and push value-added production, agro-processing, and manufacturing. And then we are determined to ensure that our footprint in Africa is not only trade, it is cultural as well. And the Presidency is leading the way for all South Africans so that we don't think of ourselves as merely a geographical expression in Africa. We are directly part of Africa. And of course, one should say it is the month, Africa Month. We should be celebrating. And I saw some wonderful outfits here. I think I must get one. And I wanted to say, Inkosi Sikeleli I Africa. I am an African. I am an African. We are all who are born in Africa, who live, who contribute productively to our country. We are all Africans, Mr. President. So I plead and I ask and I appeal to you, do refrain from a Eurocentric outlook. Think Afrocentric. And in thinking Afrocentric, you will assimilate the conceptual paradigmatic change from simply economic growth to inclusive economic growth. The ANC supports this new chapter in our developmental state. We support Vote 1.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I heard another member saying this is a budget speech. Indeed, it is a budget debate. Honourable Madisha. I am not giving you an extra minute. It's actually going as you are not going to the podium. Over to you.
Thank you. Dear South Africans, the Public Protector's report on the state capture, the South African Council of Churches unburdening report, the academics' betrayal of the promise report, and the recently published emails confirm that the morally illegitimate president of our republic, Mr. Jacob Zuma, is alleged.
On a point of order.
Order. Honorable Madisha, can you take a seat?
I'm rising on Rule 84. When he says that the president is morally illegitimate, I think it is not parliamentary to refer to a sitting member without putting a substantive motion around that.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I'll just confer with the NA table and make a ruling. Over to you, Honorable Madisha.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zuma is alleged to be involved with a gang of thieves in a project, the sole purpose of which is to displace our...
Honorable Chairperson.
Order. Honorable Member, what's the point of order?
Can you ask Honorable Madisha to address the President in a respectful manner? You cannot actually be in the position to say the President is actually involved with a gang of thieves. It's unparliamentary, it's not allowed.
Honorable Madisha, did you say that statement?
I said alleged.
Okay, proceed.
Okay. Perhaps the member needs to get a dictionary. I said alleged.
Alleged by who?
Okay.
Because you shouldn't
Honorable
actually
Member.
make pronouncements
Pilane
on things
Majake.
that do not have any proof.
Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Majake, you do ask for a point of order when you want to address the chair. Honorable Madisha, can you proceed?
I proceed. I repeat. I say the present president, Mr. Zuma, is alleged to be involved with a gang of thieves in a project, the sole purpose of which is to displace our constitutional order and replace it with a shadowy set of institutions, a shadow state of a mafia kind of state in order to thieve, to loot, to rape, to plunder the resources of our land. Now, high treason consists of any conduct unlawfully committed by a person owing allegiance to a state with the intention of overthrowing the government of the Republic, violating, threatening, or endangering the existence, independence of, or security of the Republic, and changing the constitutional structure of the Republic. Now, Mr. Zuma is destroying the governance of our constitutional democracy. He is a grave threat to our peace and stability. It's a serious threat to our economic security and the well-being of our people. He threatens our very independence, sovereignty, and security. He is the antithesis of the personification of our Constitution and is intent on destroying our constitutional project, and disrespects, violates, and threatens our Constitution as the supreme law of our land and the structures of the Republic. Now, this betrayal of our nation is deep. I want to emphasize that the unlawful...
Honorable Madisha, order. What's the point of order,
Honorable
sir?
Speaker, earlier you ruled that, and you agree with the member that he was talking about an allegation. He's no longer alleging now, he's now making facts. And I think it's now misleading the House, and this member is out of order.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
The betrayal of our nation is deep. The unlawful and unconstitutional conduct of Mr. Zuma is treasonous. I must emphasize that which he is doing is actually moving away from the Freedom Charter, and that which your deputy president and others, when you said and
Honourable
drafted the constitution,
Chairperson of the House.
came up with
Order,
to say
Honourable
that all the people of our country shall
Honourable
be
Madisha.
in the constitution. And what is he
Honourable
doing?
Madisha, can you please take a seat? What is the point of
Honourable
order?
Chairperson of the House, I'm
Yes.
actually standing here in accordance with Rule 85. Honourable Madisha is saying all sorts of things that are unfounded, including the fact that the president should actually be charged for treason.
He never
He has
said
to
should be
actually
charged. Honourable
submit a
member,
substantive motion if ever there's anything that is substantive about the allegations that he's actually making now.
Honourable member, I will make the ruling. Let the member finish. On that issue,
Thank you very much. I wish to re-emphasize that the Freedom Charter, which very many amongst us don't know, they go on to say that it belongs to ANC, and that is not the case. If they can go back and check the history of our country, they will know who were there to draw the Freedom Charter. And led by you, I must respect you, Deputy President, when we drew the constitution of our country, we said South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And that has got to be respected. And even when the president goes and checks and
order, honourable
appoints.
member, your time is up. Can you please stay on a podium? Earlier in your discussion, when you made a presentation, you made it as fact that president is morally illegitimate. In terms of Rule 85, subsection 1, that actually impugns on the integrity of a member. He is in the House. And therefore, when the president is in the House, the rules apply. So they are not misappropriate when he's not. And therefore, if that is your view, you know, honourable member, that you need to bring a substantive motion on that matter. Can I ask you to withdraw?
I respect this House, I respect you, Chairperson, and I respect the Constitution. If that is what it says, I shall withdraw that particular line.
Thank you
but
very
then,
much.
as I go down, please
Your time
know
is up.
that COPE has
Honourable
783
Honourable member, your
reasons
time is
why
up.
we can't,
Honourable member.
can't support this. It's out of order.
Honourable Madisha, your time is up, and I'd ask you only to withdraw. Yes, honourable member?
But he has not withdrawn.
He has withdrawn. Honourable Chauke, the member has withdrawn. He said in reference to the rules that I've quoted, if it says so, he is withdrawing, and therefore it means he is withdrawing. He didn't make any conditionality to that fact. Can I ask the next member to speak? Honourable member, what's your point?
House Chairperson, could I seek some clarity from you, from the Chair, if I may, in terms of Rule 85?
Yes.
You're correct that one would have to bring a substantive motion, and one would argue that would have to have a prima facie case that would warrant attention of the House. The problem is that there's already such a motion before the House, in terms of the motion of no confidence, which has been put on hold pending the outcome of the court case. That means that if the Honourable Madisha was to do that, he would be acting in violation of the rule of anticipation, because a treason would certainly lead to a vote of no confidence. So are you able to give us guidance on this?
I will give you
particular
guidance indeed, honourable member. The guidance is that the member on the podium who raised an issue should, in his own right, not referring to any motion brought by another party, make that substantive motion. So it doesn't deal with the rule of anticipation. I hope I've given you clarity on the matter. Can we please proceed?
House Chair, I'm happy to proceed, but I just want to
No,
understand.
I appreciate very much, honourable member, the issue of the motion, which indeed you indicate, it is there. But in respect of what the member was saying, I was dealing with that point to say if he wants to advance that point, put facts about what he says, he needs to bring that in terms of the substantive motion. It's not an rule of anticipation. Thank you very much.
As it pleases the chair.
Thank you. It pleases the chair indeed. Honourable member.
Yeah, Chair, Rule 86. No member can challenge the ruling of the presiding officer. And I don't know why is the chief whip of the opposition challenging the decision of the presiding officer. Once you have closed the matter, you have closed it.
I appreciate that the member was seeking clarity. He was not differing with the chair. I've clarified him, and I'm happy that indeed appreciates that the chair is pleased by his behavior of accepting what the chair has said. So thank you very much, and thank you, honourable member. Very interesting, these rules, because as they are applied, we all learning and we all appreciating that the interpretation sometimes may cloud us somehow, but it's for all of us to correct one another. Now let's move to the next member, Honourable Shabangu. Order, honourable member, let's allow the speaker on the podium to make her presentation.
Chairperson, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, honorable members, distinguished guests. As I stand here today, once more in deep pain, Hannah Cornelius of Stellenbosch, Unati Madocheni of Langa, and Iya Payamile of Kaelicho once more were killed this week. In KZN last week, 2 women were brutally stabbed to death. A 14-year-old girl who was looking after her grandmother, who is disabled, went missing and later found dead, brutally stabbed, and another one was found with multiple stab wounds, also dead. We have buried many in the last week. Once more, I wish to pay my condolences to all the families. May their soul rest in peace. These heinous crimes of women and children by their boyfriends, fathers, husbands, uncles, strangers who are supposed to be their lovers must stop. This year we celebrate the life of our beloved struggle icon, O.R. Tambo, for his heroic contribution would feel moved by their own beliefs to say we too must be counted among those who stood up in defense of the children, close quotes. South Africa, we are now dealing with criminality of the savage side of humanity. Every time we lose a woman or a girl child from violence, we are destroying our future children. These are violent crimes of power and control over women's bodies and should be understood within our patriarchal social realities. No woman or human being deserves this level of cruelty. Patriarchy must fall. Good men and women have an important role to play in this struggle, and good men have started speaking out to other men about stopping the violence and rape culture, who are saying, "Not in my name," #enough is enough. We plead with South Africans to break the silence. You need to be counted in. Stand against corruption, violent women abuse, and children abuse. As members of parliament, what are you doing to address this violence against women in your own constituencies? What is the opposition doing? You call me to apologize. What are you doing? I'm out there with my communities, with my church, praying together in fighting this scourge of violence. The battle against violence against women, it's for all of us, men and women. You must take a stand. Communities are taking a stand, getting organized to march and to protest as to establish organizations in response to violence against women. The communities are working with law enforcement agencies to ensure that perpetrators are brought to book to face the consequences. I call on society to unite in fighting gender-based violence. We must get to a point where we encourage good behavior and instill better values. As a department, we will continue to work with social partners, civil society, traditional leaders, religious leaders, the private sector, men's organizations, taxi associations, and many others. It would also be good to see some of us expending our energies to the cause in the marches that are taking place against gender-based violence. Honorable Chair, soon we will be going out to ask for women to vote for us as political parties. But what are we doing for them now to help? We need their help, and they need us during their hour of need. In the past few days, myself as a minister, I've received correspondence from various organizations and individuals that are partnering with us and saying what we are doing need to be expanded amongst ourselves in stopping this carnage. In 2015, we realized that hashtag 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children are not enough. Violence against women and children happens 365 days of the year, and therefore we adopted hashtag 365 days campaign because throughout the year, women and children continue to be victims of violence. In 2016, His Excellency President Zuma launched the National Dialogues in Limpopo Province. The dialogues are a mode of engagement with communities on violence against women and children. The dialogues creates an opportunity for victims and perpetrators of violence against women and children to interact on the causal factors. This process will also help us in understanding the nature of the problems, but also the nature of government services reaching out to communities. We are in partnership with government departments at national levels, provincial and local government, including faith-based organizations, traditional leaders, civil society, legal and private sector. During our dialogues and pilots in Limpopo, some of the issues which were raised include incest, alcohol and drug abuse, with men spending more time in shebeens, HIV and AIDS. Young men were raping elderly people with the wrong belief and perception that they will be cured. It is unfortunate to have this. These dialogues are also assisting us in the empowerment of women in the course of our engagements. As we are today, we are proud that 24 young people who are identified in Limpopo have been given an opportunity to develop their training skills, artisanal skills, at Ekurhuleni Skills Development. As I speak, the skills development programs will make them future artisans. That's our contribution as a department, but also in partnership with others. Chairperson, as part of our commitment to roll out dialogue to other provinces, I want to say next month we'll be going to Limpopo. My apology, we'll be in Mpumalanga. We have partnered with the Office of the Deputy President on the She Conquers campaign with the...
And that's where we're going to have to come out. That was Minister of Women in the Presidency, Minister Susan Shabangu, who was addressing Parliament. And of course, there's been robust discussion and reaction to the President's budget vote. We heard from various speakers throughout the course of the day, right through to Jeff Khadebe, who's a Minister in the Presidency, the Deputy President himself, Cyril Ramaphosa.
Commentary. Continue, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have partnered with the Office of the Deputy President on She Conquers campaign. Our intention is to make sure that the reduction of HIV, young girls and young women to continuing their education, teenage pregnancies, school dropouts, sexual and gender-based violence, and this campaign also seeks to keep the girl child up to the age of 14. Chairperson, tomorrow marks the beginning of National Youth Month, which pays tribute to the school children of 1976 who lost their lives during the uprising. Let me quote Ingrid Jonker when she says, "The child is not dead. The child lifts his fist against his mother who shouts, Africa shouts, the breath of freedom and the felt in the location of the cordoned heart," close quote. This week marks our National Child Protection Week, which continues to raise awareness for the rights of children. It is during this week that we focus. Yes,
Honorable Minister, don't be diverted. Continue with your speech.
It is during this week that we focus on children, recognizing the rights of children. Let's not forget those children that are currently missing. We must go back to basics where a child is raised by all of us. Your child is my child. We need to care for every child in our communities and stay true to the African value systems of a village raising a child. June 16 marked the importance of both young men and young women. They fought together in the liberation of our country. The same commitment we got from the youth of 76 must be the same commitment that get from men and young women in committing to stop violence against women and children. We must all play our parts in our homes where children are supposed to be loved in safety and socialized to become our future. We must also play part in our communities, including places of work to prevent violence against women and children. Giving a child a hug, embracing and showing love and care are important in nurturing our children. Scientists have proven that we can influence and change the course of our children's lives and future by what we as parents and caregivers do in the first 1,000 days of our lives. The National Development Plan envisages utilizing of public resources for socioeconomic empowerment of women and promotion of gender equality. The realization of Vision 2030, government will continue to prioritize women's access to economic opportunities, and in particular to business financing and credit. It is the position of government that it is not only through engagement of the talents and skills of women in the workplace that would make us more productive and prosperous. The department is focusing on some elements of the 9-point plan, which includes monitoring, ownership, and management control, development finance, and enterprise development. Statistics on women involvement in the economy continue to be cause for concern. We have therefore commissioned a study to help us understand access to finance by women. These findings will also help us to understand the extent to which women are funded to participate adequately in our economy. By introducing national minimum wage, hundreds of thousands of women who are unemployed in South Africa will have an opportunity to earn decent wage as a major step towards achieving a living wage, particularly for domestic workers and farm workers. South Africa is a signatory to the SADC Protocol on Gender and Development. The protocol intends to prohibit marriages of girls below the age of 15. South Africa must also consider domesticating this protocol. The protocol is consistent with other objectives of She Conquers campaign to keep young girls at school up to the age of 15. Our Bill of Rights and the Children's Act define a child as a person under the age of 18. Bill of Rights specifically states that every child has the right to be protected from maltreatment, neglect, abuse, and degradation. With various challenges and ills facing our society, especially the girl child, we need to make sure that the girl child is nurtured to the fullest without any inhibition. Chairperson, I hope none of our members of parliament are counted as blessers who abuse the powerful positions in society to gain sexual favors from students and unemployed young women. I challenge this House and all members of parliament, including members of provincial legislatures, to lead by example and also pay a minimum living wage to their domestic workers to stop abusing women. The advancement of women should not be seen outside the broader program of our transformation agenda. When we open access to students whose parents earn below 600,000 rands, we are relieving the burden from mothers whose children are yearning for higher education. When we provide houses to our people, We are giving shelter and assets to women who have been deprived of security of shelter. By providing health services to women, including sex workers, we are restoring the dignity for a woman and are in the margins of society. When we make calls for transformation and employment equity, we are saying to corporate South Africa and to the government of South Africa, women have a role to play in our economy. As I step down, Chairperson, I also want to say, as we say names, we must understand what they mean. Angiyena umfazi ngunkosikazi, ungangithuki. Ngoba ulazi lo lwimi lethu. Make sure you understand what you mean. Usho ngemiqondo ngathi awudli.
Order, honorable members. Well, the women's debate was very robust, and I think there must have been a to be continued. So the chairperson of the Women's Committee will actually have to have this other meeting so that we can be calmer next time. Honorable Telezi, you wanted to have a point of order?
Yeah. Sengimkhumbula umfazi wami ekhaya.
I'm sure the weekend is coming, Honorable Buthelezi. You'll be able to go home. Order, Honorable Member.
House Chairperson, I address you in terms of Rule 84 and 85. House Chairperson, there were some very personal comments directed at the Honourable Stander as the Minister was leaving the podium. And I'd ask you to please examine the Hansard. We tend to avoid personal comments in the House about people's appearances, what they're wearing, etc. Can you please examine the Hansard and come back with a ruling? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Order.
Honourable House Chairperson.
Yes, Honourable Deputy Chief Whip. Let me just first respond to the point of order. Honourable Steenhuisen, I'm sure I had to intervene twice and ask that we should not have a running comment. And I said that because the honourable member of your party you are referring to, there was a lot of things she said as a commentary when the minister was speaking, which bordered on the personal. And I appreciate, yes, I appreciate that's why I said the chairperson of the Women's Committee might have to convene another meeting, because it does seem that robustness that happened in that mini plenary still continues here. I said it deliberately because of that running comment, and I would really appreciate that as I look at the Hansard, I look at it holistically, and we indeed address those matters, and it should apply to all members, that we should not impugn on the integrity of each other, no matter how robust we feel about it. So that is why I'm saying I will indeed look at the Hansard, but I was just advising you that there was a lot the lady, the honourable member, also was doing.
As it pleases the chair.
It pleases me indeed. Thank you.
Point of order, Chair.
I will allow the Deputy Chief Whip, who had the point of order first. Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you. Thank you, House Chairperson. The Honourable Minister Shabangu didn't mention anyone's name. She didn't. So we appreciate your ruling. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Honourable Pando. Yes, I've noted you.
Chairperson, I think as you look at the Hansard, you should also look at why the Chief Whip of the opposition believes that the references were to the Honourable Stander, because I don't recall the name being mentioned.
Certainly, that's why I was saying I would look at it holistically. Honourable Filtane, you can take a seat. There's Honourable Filtane on the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Ngokwakwantu ayisosithuko ukuthi umuntu ungumfazi. Will be correct, Sheke, le nto le.
Honourable Filtane.
If you look into the Hansard, ayisosithuko.
Honourable Filtane, can you take a seat?
That's the point of discussion and how each of one may feel about the matter. Honorable members, can I appeal to all of you, including you, Honorable Stenes, and take a seat.
But I've been so well behaved, Madam.
Can you please take a seat and continue to be well behaved, as you say? Honorable members who have ruled on this issue, we would look at Hansard and what was said and how it was interpreted by members. Honorable Nkwankwa, we are moving from this debate now. Can we allow Honorable Swart to make his presentation? Honorable Swart?
Chairperson, President, Deputy President, in my maiden speech in 1999 on the high levels of crime, I quoted from Habakkuk 1 as follows: O Lord, how long shall I cry, and you will not hear? Even cry out to you violence, and you will not save. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are before me. There is strife and contention rises. Therefore the law is powerless, and justice never goes forth. That scripture is far more pertinent today than it was then. And it seems that our nation is hanging on its fingernails as we move from crisis to crisis. We see plundering of the state on an unprecedented scale, increase in lawlessness, racism, violent service delivery protests, and increase in gender violence. Now, we in the ACDP mourn with the families and friends of so many rape and murder victims, including those of the 3-year-old Courtney Peters, Karaba Makwena, and our Stellenbosch student, Hannah Cornelius. And we share the sentiments expressed by the Minister Shabangu. Thank you, Minister, for praying and for taking action. And we join you in saying, #enough is enough. Honourable President, we must do more in this regard. And then, just at a time earlier this year, when we saw a glimmer of economic recovery, we were confronted with the cabinet reshuffle. In our view, as the ACDP, and many might disagree, but in our view, a reckless decision taken with little regard for the severest impact on all South Africans, particularly the poorest of the poor. Now, it is for this reason that the ACDP joined the growing calls by South Africans from all walks of life for the President to put South Africa first, to do the honourable thing, and to step down. Speaker, whilst the ACDP believes in action, we also believe in prayer. And so, Speaker, we joined the more than 1 million believers who gathered recently in Bloemfontein and churches across the nation to humble ourselves. We looked at ourselves firstly, to repent and pray, trusting God to heal our land of violence, of racism, of corruption, and of poverty. The church, Chairperson, is indeed arising and making its voice heard at this stage. It is a voice representing the majority of South Africans. It is a church holding government accountable. And we saw that in the SABC Unburdening Panel report, which shows how individuals and families are allegedly linked to the presidency and have gained control of certain SOCs. And it concludes with a damning finding that government has, in its opinion, lost its legitimate moral authority. This is something we cannot ignore. This was expanded by the well-respected academics in their report, Betrayal of the Promise, How South Africa has Been Stolen, which speaks of a coup and a shadow state. What was once kept hidden is now starting to be exposed. We are seeing it being shouted from the rooftops, and people are connecting the dots. Chairperson, we look forward to the inquiry into state capture. However, in my legal view, there is nothing to prevent criminal investigations and prosecutions taking place right now, given the overwhelming and compelling prima facie evidence that already exists. We as Parliament need to ensure that this is taking place and that the law enforcement agencies themselves are not captured. Lastly, Honourable President, we would once again urge you to consider your ways. We in the ACDP say this with the greatest humility and respect for the office of presidency. In our view, the writing is on the wall. You've been weighed in the scales and found wanting. We are constrained to pray for all our leaders, including the President, but we will hold the President accountable. We will not be supporting the budget vote today. Malabongwe, ikamala inkosi. I thank you.
Order, Honourable Gallo.
Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. Perhaps let me start by quoting one of the great leaders of our liberation struggle, the lion of the Natal Midlands, Comrade Harry Gwala, when he said in 1993, the ANC has defeated all its enemies outside and inside the country, but the only enemy that will destroy the ANC is ANC itself. That is what is happening now. The Presidency's annual performance plan for the 2017-18 financial year is prefigured on President Zuma's 2017 State of the Nation address, in which he reiterated the role of the National Development Plan in the broader functioning of state machinery. He anchored his address within the text, context, and pretext of the developmental state's key projects, stimulus underpinned by the NDP in the following words, open quote, in 2014, we launched the Operation Pakisa Big Vets results methodology in the ocean economy, health, education, and mining sectors. The purpose was to find a few key projects that could unlock growth in implementing the NDP. Because the Presidency is the epicenter of government's developmental and inclusive growth agenda, its performance indicators for the 2017-18 financial year are less ambiguous that government has to amplify its efforts to deconcentrate the stubborn patterns of ownership and control of our indigenous mineral resources, including the strategic economic levers, which are still privately owned. There are growing concerns, however, that the Presidency has tended to fashion itself as a mini regulator to other government departments. This is despite its very status of a government department, more akin to any other government departments. Honorable Chair, the AIC has also been horrified by the looming travel and accommodation expenditure in the Presidency, which the department has acknowledged in its own annual performance plan for 2017-2018. Moreover, we call upon the Presidency to be mindful of the perpetual use of consultants under its nose, its watch. If is the driver of the so-called radical economic transformation, it should invest in upskilling young Black graduates and professionals to create inclusive growth and narrow the Gini coefficient, which measures income disparities. Chair, we are pleased with the Presidency's Run Imbizo program, which quantum leap the much-needed interface with the citizenry. Ideally, these programs should reignite civic participation and public engagement with the government representatives. On the same token, we cannot allow these state-funded initiatives to be used to advance the agenda
Honourable
of
member,
the governing body.
your time is up. Thank
you very much. You don't even respect our coalition, Chairperson.
You will also accuse me of being partisan in future. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Minister Mfeketo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Order.
Honorable President, Deputy President, Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, honorable members and special guests in the gallery. A few days ago, we celebrated Africa Day under the theme of a better Africa and a better world in a liberated and democratic South Africa. We have definitely moved far away from what former President Mandela called the skunk of the world into being one of the major players on the global stage. Honorable members, South Africa is an integral part of the continent, its history, its future, the contemporary challenges of the continent and its destiny are intertwined with that of South Africa. A stable and peaceful continent means a peaceful and stable South Africa, where a boy and a girl child face a future of prosperity, security, and dignity. The presidency budget vote gives us an opportunity to present how South Africa has played a stabilizing, constructive role contributing to peace, security, and development, both in the region and continent. Since 1994, South Africa's foreign policy has aimed to play an active role in shaping the architecture for regional and continental integration, including developing norms and standards that underpin collective efforts to ensure peace, security, stability, and development. Honorable members, in terms of conflict resolution, the presidency has led initiatives on post-conflict reconstruction and development in Africa. We can be proud of notable highlights of South Africa's role in contributing to peace, stability, and security since 1994, including the facilitation of the inter-Congolese dialogue in the DRC, the facilitation of the Burundi peace process, mediation in Zimbabwe, Cote d'Ivoire, the Comoros, Sudan, as well as facilitation in Madagascar, South Sudan, and Lesotho. In terms of our efforts to promote and contribute to sustainable development and democracy, the rule of law and human rights in the Southern African region and Africa generally, South Africa has played an active role in the conceptualization of the continent's development vision, namely the Partnership for Africa's Development, as well as the establishment of a voluntary instrument for the promotion of democracy and good governance, namely the African Peer Review Mechanism. Chairperson, we have achieved a lot in relation to the role of South Africa in multilateral institutions in a bid to foster a more equitable world, build social solidarity, peace, and cooperation. South Africa's vision of a better South Africa in a peaceful and prosperous Africa, supported by its political, military, economic capabilities, has enabled it to play multiple roles of peacekeeping, peacemaking, economic, and development partner. In the global South, South Africa will continue to play its role of promoting South-South solidarity in order to advance their mutual interest in global platform. The presidency, through its diplomatic work, has ensured that South Africa continues to play a progressive and constructive role in the reform and strengthening of the United Nations as an important institution of global governance. We will continue to defend and guard the centrality of the United Nations and its charter in addressing global challenges and problems. South Africa will continue to call for and pursue the reform of the United Nations Security Council so that it reflects today's global realities and ensure that Africa is represented in the permanent category. We will use South Africa's chairship of the International Atomic Energy Agency to ensure that developing countries, particularly African countries, benefit from peaceful use of atomic energy. As a responsible global citizen, South Africa will continue to advocate for a rule-based multilateral system that places people-centered development at the center of its agenda. We call upon the United Nations to assume its historic responsibility in the resolution of the Israel-Palestine question. And on priority for 2017, Chairperson, South Africa will use its role as SADC Chairperson to intensify the SADC regional integration agenda with a focus on industrialization to boost the region's capacity to produce value-added goods and the development, rehabilitation of infrastructure to facilitate intra-SADC trade. Under the proposed theme, partnering with the private sector in developing industry and regional value chain, South Africa will focus on harnessing the participation and involvement of the regional private sector in the implementation of the SADC regional industrialization strategy and roadmap. South Africa will use its position as SADC chair to accelerate the implementation of the SADC COMESA EAC free trade area, which will enhance intra-Africa trade and contributes towards the achievement of the Continental Free Trade Agreement. With the year 2017 having been declared by the AU heads of state and assembly as the year of harnessing the demographics dividends through investment in the youth, South Africa will champion efforts aimed at leveraging the youth bulge to propel the continent's socio-economic development through an integrated approach to improve youth development across the continent and to ensure their full participation in economic activities. South Africa's effort will be aimed at contributing to the realization of the African Union Agenda 2063 vision and the implementation of its first 10-year plan. We are conscious that strong structures are required to effectively implement AU decision, as well as realization of the aspirations of Agenda 2063. We are prioritizing infrastructure development, particularly road, rail, and aviation, in order to boost intra-Africa trade, which will act as a catalyst for continental development and prosperity. This will be embedded in regional economic communities, which are building blocks towards the realization of a continental free trade area. South Africa will assume the chairpersonship of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, which brings together 28 countries from the east and south coast of Africa, South and Southeast Asia, the Gulf region, and Indian Ocean islands, unlocking the potential presented by the blue economy, including the sustainable exploitation of marine resources, the creation of value chains, as well as maritime security, will be a major priority for South Africa. The goals set in Operation Phakisa will guide our engagement in this regard. Honorable Speaker, as the chairperson As the chairperson of BRICS in 2018, South Africa will drive an agenda to intensify intra-BRICS cooperation in diverse fields, as well as its consolidation as a significant player in shaping a new equitable global political and economic order. Plans are afoot to set up the first regional office of BRICS New Development Bank, the Africa Regional Center, located in Johannesburg. At the Goa Summit in India, BRICS leaders expressed their satisfaction with the progress in operationalizing the ARC and pledged their full support in this regard. The first tranche of the New Development Bank project loans were disbursed in 2016. Through its co-chairperson of the development working group of G20, South Africa will continue to promote the principle of inclusivity for the benefit of our continent and the global South. Thus, our efforts will be geared towards ensuring that programs of the G20 are aligned to Africa's development agenda. At the multilateral level, we are prioritizing the advancement of the reform agenda in the UN and its agencies. Key to this is the increase of the United Nations Security Council members to reflect the current global realities. We shall also sleep if it is. We shall also place a high premium on ensuring the multilateral system is aligned to support the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals and the Paris Compact on climate change. Chairperson, I wish to end with the words I still have 10 minutes.
Order, honorable members, order.
Chairperson, I wish to end with words of the late President Oliver Tambo, yes. Yeah, he brought you South Africa, you should be proud. Oliver Tambo, whose year we celebrate this year. Oliver Tambo, our chief diplomat in exile, would have been 100 years old this year. I ask you to remember his words of encouragement as we continue to build South Africa. And this is what he said when he delivered the opening address at the International Solidarity Conference on the theme From Apartheid to Peace, Democracy and Development on the 19th February 1993. You will remember that so many years after your brothers, but people who were very loyal to the country, not only to the PFP then, went to Dakar to start negotiations with this very comrade, Oliver Tambo. And those were the true South Africans. And he said, and I quote, "We believe that we must stand together in creating the new South Africa. When our work is done, let all look at the new South Africa with hope and encouragement. Hope and encouragement because she will have demonstrated that it is possible for people of different colors and different races and nationalities to live together in peace and friendship, sharing a common sense of nationhood and humanity. I hope you take that to heart. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister. The next speaker is Honourable Ploama.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable President, Honorable Deputy President, Honorable members, it is with sadness and a great deal of shame when it is alleged that our President has chosen the side of the Guptas against our country. It is also alleged that the Guptas have become the Buddha-bond of the ANC. If these allegations are true, Honorable President, you have truly betrayed our country and its people. Only people with dark souls like Delilah can mislead a president like this. Honorable President, why this radical economic transformation only benefits your family and friends? Honorable President, how are you going to address economic injustice when you are no longer committed to integrity and upholding our Constitution? Honorable President, it is alleged that you have surrendered our country to the Guptas and other private interests. When you surrender this beautiful country, have you ever thought once about the sacrifices made by some of our living stalwarts like Winnie Mandela, our legendary Walter Sisulu, and Ahmed Kathrada, and Steve Biko? It is also alleged that you have donated the treasury to the Guptas. When you do this donation, have you ever thought of the young people who are unemployed, students who have no place to sleep but yearning for education, when you abdicate your duties to the Guptas? Honorable President, I want to warn you, our country is not for sale. Honorable President, what have we done to you for you to abandon our country for self-preservation? Why are you handing over our country to dark forces, crooks? Honorable President, I know you will never answer me. Ignorance and arrogance are your best defense. Honorable President, why are you repeating?
On a point of order, Chief.
Honourable Ploama, will you take a seat, please? Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
I'm rising on Rule 84 and 85.
Yes.
The Honourable Member that has said the President has handed over the country to the dark forces. If there's something of that nature, I should have come with a substantive motion to deal with that. Otherwise, it's a very crude language to use in the House. Thank you.
Yes, the Honourable Member has dealt and made a number of allegations, but I want to request the NA table specifically with regard to some of the things that are not alleged, that is stated as fact, to look into answered for me so that I can make a considered ruling on the matter.
Honorable President, why are you repeating the same divisive tactics of apartheid to divide our people? Honorable President, I say therefore appeal to your conscience. Please resign. This institutionalized theft and carnage must stop. Our people have spoken through their marches across the country. Even when, President, you have claimed these marches are influenced by racists.
Honourable Ploama, will you take your seat? Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
I'm standing on Rule 82 and 85. Rule 82 refers to respect of members of this House, which actually makes me to say that you should actually make a ruling on the disrespectful manner in which the member is actually addressing the President. And on Rule 85, he's actually saying that there has been some form of theft that has taken place. And the member understands very well, if that is the case, he needs to actually bring it to the House in a form of a substantive motion.
Yes, Honourable Member, I've requested the NA table to look into exactly what the member has said, and I'll make a considered ruling in that regard. Honourable Plama, you must now conclude.
I say, therefore appeal to your conscience, Honourable President, for you to resign. The people have marched across the country. Even when you claim they are racist, agent of imperialist or white economic capital, I was with them and I was never influenced by imperialists. But by your mismanagement of the economy and gross incompetence of your administration. Honorable Chair, can you allow me to deal with this honorable member, if I still have a minute?
No, Honourable Member, I will not allow you. You must take your seat. Your time is finished. The next speaker is the Honourable Gordy.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, comrades, honourable members, and the viewers at home. Comrade President, our economy is facing severe challenges of growth and development. We have been downgraded recently, making the road ahead rocky. The least we can do is to ensure that we use every cent of public funds prudently, use money for the right things and in the right way. In short, do more with less. But are departments and SOEs acting in ways that take cognizance of this economic reality? Comrade President, we worry that the irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure in government is continuously ballooning. We are currently passing departmental budgets, but how will these budgets be managed? When we look at the financial health of departments in terms of accruals, commitments, and liabilities, the picture is not a good one. And I think in the past financial year, even the Presidency had accruals of about 29 million rands. Comrade President, we can't afford the waste of public resources. As the head of the executive, you must set the tone and direction on the quality of governance. What is the impact of the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation on governance? Even the anti-corruption task team, which is under the political leadership of this department, is far from being as impactful and organized as it should be. Noting that the ACTT is the government's lead anti-corruption instrument, we must intensify practically the fight against corruption beyond words. We must continue to have the best dreams for our people, meaningfully fight poverty and inequality. We must address urgently the plight of ex-mine workers, farm workers, slum dwellers, and especially people in the rural areas. In February, I spoke about the plight of the people of Cathcart in the Amahlati municipality in the Eastern Cape. Nothing has improved for them due to the dysfunctionality of the local government there. So for Cathcart, so for many other communities. The APC supports the minimum wage accord as a step in the right direction to reduce poverty amongst the employed, taking into account that almost 50% of employed South Africans earn less than 3,500 per month. However, we are advocating, Comrade Deputy President, that early childhood development educators, home-based caregivers, and HIV counselors must be included in the minimum wage regime. They work for no less than 8 hours a day, for 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year. Purely on the duration they work and the critically important work they do, they deserve a living wage. Their work needs to be recognized and appropriately remunerated. Lastly, the APC joins the country in condemning the brutal violence against women and children. Women are the heartbeat of a nation, the glue that holds society and families together. They must be respected and protected. As we end Africa Month, may I say, as the Africanists have always said, Africa for the Africans, Africans for humanity, and humanity for God. The APC will support the budget vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Mania. Order, Honourable Members.
Chairperson, the divisions inside the ANC are plain for everybody to see this evening. And they are much deeper than even we realize. Because the Honourable Joan Fubbs says that South Africa is a nation of dog lovers. Now that might be true, but if I recall correctly, President Jacob Zuma decreed not so long ago that to own a dog was un-African. And so we wish the Honourable Joan Fubbs good luck leading the pro-dog faction within the ANC. Chairperson, let me begin by reminding members to my right of Oliver Tambo's great vision for the future of South Africa. He stood for and he fought for a vision which he described so beautifully as follows. We seek to create a united, democratic, and non-racial society. We have a vision of South Africa in which black and white shall work together as equals in peace and prosperity. We seek to remake our part of the world in a corner of the globe which all of humanity shall be proud. Well, the truth is that vision has been crushed, and it has been crushed by one man, and his name is President Jacob Zuma. The fact is that if Oliver Tambo were here today, he would not just be disappointed, he would be disgusted by what he saw in South Africa. You see, Chairperson, we are now in deep economic trouble with 8.9 million people who do not have jobs or have given up looking for jobs in South Africa. We now, more than ever, need political leadership capable of pulling our economy out of a death spiral and to give hope to the 8.9 million people who do not have jobs or have given up looking for jobs in South Africa. But we have President Jacob Zuma, who seems committed to breaking the economy rather than fixing the economy in South Africa. The fact is, he cannot even remember the 9 points in his own 9-point plan to ignite growth and create jobs. He told us in this House it includes agriculture, among other things. And he seems bewildered by his own economic policy, known as radical economic transformation. He told us, and I quote, "Radical economic whatever is nothing like a khoho." And he is supported by economic illiterates like the Honourable Nomvula Mokonyane, who not only thinks a ratings downgrade is a good idea because, in her own words, it's actually better investors pull back, but also thinks that if the rand falls, we can, in her own words, simply pick it up. We can only wonder whether the President shares the view of the Honourable Fikile Mbalula, who says she is a factory fault. We share that view. And then we have the shameful midnight cabinet reshuffle. President Jacob Zuma recalled former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan from an international investor roadshow on the basis of a bizarre intelligence report, and then promptly fired him, can you believe it, to, and I quote, improve efficiency and effectiveness. The truth is that had the President been serious about improving efficiency and effectiveness, he would have fired the Honorable Bata Bili Dlamini and the Honorable Faith Mutombi, who together, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, could barely run a bath. The Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, to his credit, condemned the cabinet reshuffle, saying it was unacceptable. And the new Minister of Finance, of course, defended the cabinet reshuffle by condemning those who had condemned the cabinet reshuffle as a mixed bag of so-called ANC stalwarts. The truth is, President Jacob Zuma's midnight cabinet reshuffle had nothing to do with improving efficiency and effectiveness, and everything to do with capturing National Treasury for his #1 clients, the Guptas. The fact is, the new finance minister, Malusi Gigaba, has been appointed by the president to defang the treasury.
Honourable Mania, will you take your seat, please? Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
On Rule 85, Chairperson, Honourable Menir, when you're actually saying that the reshuffle was about taking over the treasury, you know that you're supposed to bring a substantive motion in that regard, and as long as that substantive motion is not in the House, you are not supposed to actually engage on it. I thank you.
No, thank you, Honourable Member. We will look into the matter. Continue, Honourable Member.
Chairperson, the problem with this Honourable Member is the President might not be able to name the 9 points in his 9-point plan, but that Honourable Member could not tell us how many points there are in a 9-point plan. Chairperson, as I was saying, the work has already begun.
Honourable Mania,
On a point of order.
Honourable Mania, take your seat, please. Yes,
thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I can see that Honourable Menir is hyper-energized. I'm standing in
Honourable members.
Number 82.
No. Honourable members. Honourable Chief Whip of the DA, can you just control your members, please?
I'm standing
Whether you are irritated by the point of order, the member has a right to raise a point of order.
Exactly.
And then you must listen, and then I'll give a ruling. Yes, Honourable Member.
We all are allowing Honourable Menir to speak, and when we're supposed to be speaking, this is what we get. I'm rising in accordance with rule number 82 to say that Honourable Menir should not actually address me as this member.
No,
because I need to be addressed.
Honourable Member, take your seat now, please. Please take your seat.
House Chairperson.
Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
House Chairperson, I'd like to address you in terms of Rule 66, if I may. And I'd like to address you in terms of Rule 66 in conjunction with the annotated digest of rulings 94 to 99 on page 90. And I'd like to read from it. It says, members should not use spurious points of order in an attempt to respond to points raised by the member speaking. And the ruling at that time was, members, please do not rise under the ruse of a point of order when you're in fact not making a point of order, but merely want to smuggle in a speech. And I think that this is a classic case of speech smuggling.
Now, Honourable Chief Whip of the Opposition, thank you for reminding all members on both sides of the House not to use that mechanism in that way. Honourable Mania, will you continue, please?
Yes, Chairperson, I'd be delighted to meet that Honourable Member in her office
and please
at Barney's to
address
discuss
the
the 9-point
Chairperson,
plan.
Honourable Mania.
Chair, as I was saying, the new Minister of Finance has been appointed to defang the National Treasury, and the work has already begun. The Minister in the Presidency has power-grabbed the budget prioritisation progress from National Treasury, and the Minister of Justice is power-grabbing control of the Financial Intelligence Centre from National Treasury. To make matters worse, the Finance Minister has shamefully appointed an economic advisor who works on the principle that if it moves, nationalise it, and who wants to turn South Africa into Venezuela. And he has appointed a legal advisor who used to be a fixer for the Guptas and the associates at Home Affairs. The fact is, the nutters, fixers, and rent seekers used to be outside the National Treasury. Now they're inside the National Treasury, and they're there at the invitation of President Jacob Zuma and his most important clients, the Guptas.
Yes, Honourable Mania, take your seat. Why are you rising, Honourable Member?
Is it parliamentary for the member to keep on dancing there where you are not in dancing?
No, Honourable Member, that's not a point of order. The member seems to be enjoying himself. So continue, honorable member.
He's not good at dancing.
No, honorable
He must
member,
just debate.
take your seat. Please take your seat. Continue, honorable Mania.
House Chairperson.
Yes.
May I address you in terms of Rule 84, if I may, read with Rule 86. And remind you, Chair, that you have the discretion, because that seems to be the only point of order that member ever is able to raise. It's a one-trick pony. The Chair has the discretion not to recognise a member who raises spurious points of order. That member only knows spurious points of order, and I think that he must be reminded that he has the risk of not being recognised.
No, that's the first point of order. The member.
Honourable Chair, I was just
No,
asking
honourable
what is
member.
parliamentary.
No,
But
no, honourable member. No, honourable member, take your seat. Honourable Khadebe, take your seat, please. No, that was the first point of order the member took, so you can't utilise those rules to silence the member. Continue, honourable Mania.
Thank you, Chairperson. In the end, the fact is that President Jacob Zuma must have known that the midnight cabinet reshuffle would tank the economy. We are now in deep economic trouble. With the midnight cabinet reshuffle, radical economic transformation, and the defanging of national treasury together delivering policy uncertainty, stagnant economic growth, declining per capita incomes, high inflation, a collapse in investment, a spike in disinvestment, fiscal slippage, staggering national debt, massive unemployment, zombie state-owned enterprises, and ultimately junk status. But most of all, a complete loss of hope for the millions of people who do not have jobs or have given up looking for jobs and who live without dignity, without independence, and without freedom in South Africa. That is why it is not an exaggeration to say that President Jacob Zuma's midnight cabinet reshuffle, radical economic transformation, and defanging of national treasury amounts to the premeditated murder of the economy in South Africa. But worse, far worse, President Jacob Zuma has not only crushed Oliver Tambo's great vision for the future of our country, he has crushed all the promise and all the hope in the preamble to our Constitution, which requires him to heal the divisions of the past, to establish a society based on democratic values, to improve the quality of life of all citizens, and to build a united, democratic South Africa. All we can say in conclusion, Chairperson, is cry the beloved country. I thank you.
Honourable Mania. Honourable Mania, will you remain at the podium, please? You remain at the podium, please. Honourable members, during the course of this debate, a number of points of order were raised, and I've asked the NA table to look into the matter, and they've advised me as follows. During his speech, the Honourable Mania, while referring to the Honourable President's cabinet reshuffle, said, and I quote, he was doing it for his number one clients, the Guptas. That is in contravention of Rule 85, Sub-Rule 1, that says that no member may impute improper motives to another member. And that also refers and reflects on all members, the President, ministers, and deputy ministers who are not members of the Assembly. I thus request the Honourable Mania to withdraw that remark, please.
Chairperson, with respect, President Jacob...
No, I didn't ask you for an explanation, Honourable Member. You must withdraw the remark.
House Chairperson.
On order, Honourable Members. Honourable Steenhuisen, can I just deal with the Honourable Member at the podium first, and then I'll recognize you. Honourable Mania.
It relates to this particular matter.
No, I'll give you an opportunity after I've dealt with this.
You're going to execute him first before you hear
no,
the...
I've made a ruling. That is my ruling. Honourable Mania, you must withdraw that comment.
Chairperson, would you remind me what comment you would like me to withdraw?
No, I've indicated, Honourable Mania, that when you refer to the President's cabinet reshuffle, you said, and I quote you, he was doing it for his number one clients, the Guptas. right? That is in contravention and violation of Rule 85, Sub-Rule 1, that states that no member may impute improper motives to any other member. And I'm asking you now for the third time to withdraw this remark, please.
Chairperson, with respect, I refuse to withdraw that remark.
Honourable member,
There is
if you
mounting
refuse to
evidence.
withdraw the remark,
17,000
then you must leave the House, please. Honourable Mania, will you leave the House, please? Thank you.
Honourable Chair.
No, I've not recognized you. Please take your seat, Honourable Gadebe. Please take your seat. Honourable Steenhuisen, you had a point of order.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. It's too late. I was in defence of my member. However, I would like this ruling referred to the Rules Committee for a proper analysis.
Okay, that's fine. Honourable members, the next speaker is the Honourable Deputy Minister in the Presidency.
Order, Honourable Chair.
Yes, why are you rising, Honourable Member?
Honourable Chair, I request that in referral to the laws of the House, is that Honourable Menier must be taken to its very hearing.
No, Honourable Member, I am the presiding officer and I made a ruling. The Honourable Member is leaving the House. Continue, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. One of the things I see Honourable Menir has already left for his next gig, DJ Manir, those are his initials. No surprise that he's always here dancing up and down and all of that. And I think he's also possibly left, Honourable House Chair, his CDs, vinyls, and his earphones here as DJ. So no wonder that he's always dancing when he's here. Speaker, Excellency President Jacob Zuma, Honourable Deputy President, Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members, ladies and gentlemen, fellow South Africans, the leader of the opposition came here to suggest that he left the ANC because the ANC has abandoned the dream of Oliver Tambo. But in truth, the honorable leader of the opposition, Honorable Mmusi Maimane, left the ANC because within a week he was promised to be a mayor of Johannesburg Metro. Within 6 months he was promised to be a premier after they lost the Johannesburg Metro. And after they lost the Gauteng province, he was promised and was actually given the leadership of this house, which he now occupies. So it had nothing to do with what Oliver Tambo represented or what the ANC stands for, but it had everything to do with him wanting leadership. And he couldn't wait to kick out the Honorable Lindiwe Mazibuko, the former Honorable Lindiwe Mazibuko, who was the leader of the House of the DA. So it's actually very opportunistic to suggest that you left for those particular motives. I stood here, I was sitting here listening to the Honorable Groenewald, who challenged the president to tomorrow say to white people of our country what is it that he expects from them. And I think the most unfortunate thing that the Honorable Groenewald expects from us is for us to misrepresent the truth and to speak lies so that we maintain the peace. He wants us today to say that the land was not stolen, that the land was handed over peacefully in exchange for the Bible or the mirror, that the wealth also of this country was not stolen, that the wealth of this country was voluntarily built by the blood and sweat of black South Africans, and for Afrikaner capital to continue to flourish today is because young, particularly black South Africans, are letting it be so. And if we say that, for the Honorable Groenewald, that will maintain the peace. But unfortunately, that's not the reality that South Africa is faced with today. We have a particular disjuncture wherein wealth and poverty are defined in terms of race. We have a disjuncture where land and its dispossession are defined in terms of those particular terms. Honorable members, the Presidential Working Group on Youth is a strategic platform of government, the private sector and civil society to have a strategic conversation on how to implement youth development interventions and to discuss collective action and accelerate the empowerment of young people as provided for in the National Youth Policy 2020 and other government policies. The Committee of 17 Deputy Ministers monitors the work of the 5 work streams that are aligned to each of the 5 strategic priorities of the National Youth Policy 2020. In this financial year, the National Youth Development Agency Amendment Bill will be tabled. The amendment bill will streamline the focus of the agency as well as introduce institutional mechanism for strengthening youth development at a provincial and local level. This is important if we want to ensure that our youth development investments go to where it is most needed at a provincial and local level. The President has mentioned the progress that the Presidential Task Team on the creative industry has made in addressing the issues that artists face. The task team has ongoing interaction with the music industry to ensure that the long-standing unpaid needle time bill gets paid to local artists. Honorable Speaker, earlier this year, the Democratic Alliance government in the Western Cape sold land that was for social housing to a private school, the Trafalgar Intermediary School, for 135 million. The 1.75 hectare property, which can build more than 270 social housing units, and listen to it, and can possibly house more than 2,000 people, will now be a subject of judicial contest. The National Department of Human Settlement, together with the NGOs Difuna Ukwazi and Reclaim the City, intends to appeal to the conscience of the leader of the DA, Madam Zille, to instead use the land for the benefit of the majority of our people. Whether the court case will be won by the national government on behalf of a people that is continuously excluded from the social spaces of the city will be a matter for another day. However, the politics of this case reveals a lot more than what meets the eye. It is clear that Madam Zille is committed to maintaining the colonial spatial development setup that was imposed by the apartheid regime that continues to balkanize and keep black people in Gugulethu and Khayelitsha whilst keeping areas such as Sea Point and Camps Bay to the exclusion of the Cape Town white and rich class. We ask the question, are they children of a lesser God? This will keep the status quo in terms of economic and other forms of development as Madam Zille and the entire DA pay lip service to transformation, integration, and change. There is little or no land available for integration so that more and more people are settled next to where they work, next to where they eat, and next to where they play, and next to where they pray. Although the DA is willing to integrate with black people in their political party, even give them leadership position, it is clear that this integration will only end here and cannot include integration of their voters into single communities, single schools, and have single services. We ask the question today, are they children of a lesser God? The ANC government is prepared to fight this to the end, and instead of going to the courts for wily and deceitful purposes, as the DA has done yesterday, of stealing power, we will go to the courts in order to ensure that development benefits the majority of the people of this country. Honorable Speaker, this is not the only time that the DA has conformed with practices that suggest that theirs is to maintain the colonial and apartheid setup and resist transformation. In the same period that Madam Zille was fighting tooth and nail with the communities who wanted to be integrated into the technically whites-only Sea Point, she was also tweeting up a storm about the history of colonialism and the need to defend its positive aspects, much to the embarrassment of the leader of the DA here, Honorable Musi Maimane, and a couple of angry young tweets from the DA bench. She has since withdrawn the tweet, but wait for it, with a much longer but even more embarrassing article that was widely circulated in the media. The problem with those in the DA who condemned Zille's Twitter account and verses was not because they disagree with her, but it is because she stated them publicly, and as usual, she was condemned, and they were forced to condemn her in public. They secretly and behind closed doors agree with her, and sometimes even in veiled manifesto proclamations. And as we've heard here today from the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, they actually agree with her, and I'll show you how. She who led the DA for that long, and therefore the DA itself, believes that there was some good that came from being colonized, racially segregated, imprisoned, shipped to the Americas and Europe to begin their development, killed if we resisted, dispossessed of our land and livestock, forced to work in the mines and factories for pittance, had our mineral resources exported to faraway lands to build imposing cathedrals and shiny golden pavements that symbolizes their development and our underdevelopment. That this is a good story of colonialism and apartheid and replaced our barbarism. I conclude and include the DA in zealous madness of colonial and apartheid glorification, because if they do not repeat her bamboozled theory of building on the foundation of colonial development, all that they can do is repeat ANC policies, or even better, promise that they will double social wages and all of that's all they can do. So they are caught up in between repeating zealous craziness or repeating ANC policies. But equally, the DA's divided anger towards zealous colonialism tweets is less about its reflection on their policies, which they still hold dearly, as I will show, and more about their pressure to respond to those particular tweets. They are contentious colonial contours that Helen Zille should face consequences for, and the DA should be taken to task about, which have been repeated as daily truth and which were even repeated in the DA's elections manifesto. Firstly, in South Africa, they regard transformation, which is equal to broad-based black economic empowerment. They refer to it, wait for it, as broad-based black economic empowerment. And this, they say, is only for the elite and politically connected. How many times have we had the DA repeat this slogan here in this house, where for them, economically empowering black people is equal and inherent to corruption? This is almost always criminal. For them, every black person that has been economically empowered by this government should be thrown a shade, treated as a suspect, and even if they are making a difference in their communities, they should be investigated. Secondly, for Helen Zille and for the DA, what value is freedom when it can unleash virulent and violent black youth into our communities to rob, rape, and rummage their peaceful suburb apart? She asked in that diatribe that I spoke about earlier on, when she was defending her tweets, how much does our freedom rating mean when we cannot even get the rudimentary criminal justice pipeline functioning, close quote. I tell you now, and I want to tell you today, that this freedom means a lot to billions of young people who today will not be randomly stopped and be asked for their passports or passbooks. It means a lot for them if they cannot be forced into labor. It means a lot if they cannot be imprisoned for their political views. It means a lot if they cannot be forcefully removed from Sophia Town into Soweto. It means a lot for those young people if these freedoms they can cherish. For you, it may be for granted because you did not confront the might of the apartheid regime. But for them, it means a lot, and that's why they will forever cherish this freedom. But more importantly, Speaker, to disconnect the crime that all communities suffer from the vestiges of colonialism is disingenuous. To venerate the success of colonialism and apartheid and apportion their failures to the new government, as we have seen here today, is duplicitous. Colonialism condemned young, especially African men, into the lives of criminality, leaving them without entrepreneurial or work-related skills. This condemnation will linger with us for generations to come, as long as the structure of the economy still remain. Honorable Musi Maimane here may be an atypical male oozing success with his polished and multiple English accents, posh job handed over to him, of being leader of the opposition, and may be lucky to have changed the discourse for his children and grandchildren in a way his parents may not have imagined. But without justifying crime, post-colonialism has not been kind for the majority of young black South Africans. The policy of the DA is that we should all be given equal opportunities, but those opportunities can never be available to all of us if the structure of the economy still remains the same, and if those who are on this side of the bench continue to defend the status quo. Minister Mbalula here has multiplied his efforts to fight crime and will not use the excuse of the legacy of apartheid and colonialism in this fight against crime. But we cannot discount the fact that the pretty and praised side of colonialism have created this monstrous young black men that we today are mourning and condemning. Thirdly, Helen Zille insists, and together with the DA, that we should build on the institutions and foundations that colonists have left us, as they did in Singapore. So in Singapore, the colonizers left. But I ask you the question, these institutions, which I presume are judiciary, worth, and all of that, but have we been left anything by the former colonizers? I cannot even think about that. In our case, the colonists have not left. They are here with us, and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren are still here with us, and they are defending the legacy of their great-grandfathers. If you look at the ownership patterns of land, the colonists have not left that to the natives, as they did in Singapore. They still own the land. If you look at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the richest people are still Oppenheimer, Rupert, Visser, Becker, Gray, and only then do you hear of a Motsepe. Only then. And then you want us to celebrate and say that colonialism and apartheid have been defeated. And you also want us to celebrate and say that we all have equal opportunities. And in fact, that is not and may never be the case as long as this type of a country and a structure of the economy exists. Part of the mantra that the DA spreads day in and day out is for the protection of private property as a means to ensure investor confidence and create jobs. This essentially is about protecting the status quo, maintaining apartheid patterns of ownership, and dancing to the colonial tune of their master. If you truly want change, do not only advocate for change here in Parliament, but also in the stock exchange, in communities where our people live, in terms of land ownership and in control of the wealth of this country. You call this populism, I suppose, but that it will lead to South Africa being a pauper state. However, this is the real transformation that our people are looking for. And finally, Helen Zille and the DA believes that in order to ensure development in our country, we should deal with the trade unions just as they did in Singapore. Or what Honorable Maimane referred to earlier today in the debate, the authoritarianism of SATU in particular. But they forget that this was the same strategy that was used by the colonizers, who suppressed any form of worker resistance and any form of protest. Every time here, the DA shouts all sorts of anti-COSATU, anti-Nehau, and anti-SATU slogans, precisely because they are continuing with the lineage of colonialism, they are continuing with the lineage of apartheid. As Madam Zille complains, as she did in her letter explaining why she tweeted, as she complains, Madam Zille, about not lending on time through SAA, or Madam Zille being given tea without milk at the airport, or Madam Zille complaining that her newspaper did not arrive on time, the people of Nyanga, of Kailicha, and of Guguletu do not have time and the pleasure of these luxurious complaints because they've got much bigger challenges. And as the ANC government, we will continue building houses and provide shelter for those people. We'll continue to connect electricity to the millions who need it. We'll continue to build decent road infrastructure, especially in our communities. We'll continue delivering houses which they are denied in Sea Point and in Trafalgar. We'll continue to providing schools and bettering the education system. We'll continue to open clinics and ensuring a quality basic health care, and as we've done, and build more universities in order to improve the chances of young South Africans. Honorable Speaker, yesterday, the DA, through its leader, Mmusi Maimane, again laid charges against the ANC president. This is permitted in a democratic South Africa and shows that we are maturing and we are not like the colonizers and masters of apartheid whom they continue to defend their legacy, that we allow democracy to prosper. But something interesting and yet unsurprising happened today, that Honorable Maimane uses Parliament, as he does all the time, and all political platforms, as foreplay to prepare for the consummation of their marriage with the judicial system. We respect the independence of the judicial system, but the fact that most, if not all, political parties seem to be substituting hard-won political democracies and interaction with constituencies, together with debate and engagement in this House for jurisprudential convenience. We are witnessing how some political parties are trying to win through the courts a majority which they failed to win during elections campaign. And some of them are not even scared to tell either the speaker or anybody who cares to listen that we will take you to court. How many of us have had this year that when they are defeated here in the House through debate and engagement or through the ballot, they say, we will take you to court? Let me conclude by reminding the Honorable Maimane that he has not succeeded in his regime change plan for South Africa. The voters have consistently rejected this. In spite of this lack of success, he then travels to Zambia to implement regime change there. We're very sorry that you were kicked out in Zambia.
Point
but we're
of
also
order.
more sorry that...
Honourable Deputy Minister, will you take a seat, please? Order, honourable members. Why are you rising, honourable member?
House Chair, I'd like to address you in terms of Rule 85(1) of the Rules of the National Assembly, which says that no member may impute improper motives to any other member or cast personal reflections on that member's integrity. The allegation that Mr. Maimane was going to Zambia to effect regime change is not true, and it imputes an improper motive. But we invite the Honourable Deputy Minister to submit a substantive motion, as our members have been instructed to all afternoon.
Honourable member, I will also look at the answer for that. The NA table will assist me and I will make a ruling in that regard. Continue, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much. Now, the Patriotic Front used very kind words, which we don't agree with. You know, we are a democracy, and Honourable Maimane alleges that they are not. Now, they say that Zambia is not for sale to the highest bidder. And they're referring to him as the mouthpiece of capital masquerading as political messiah of our people. And they say that he's representing a political party that championed and benefited from the notorious apartheid regime. But they even go one better. They even refer to him as the black token to reverse the gains of freedom against apartheid. Now, that's not me. I can never say that to such a bright leader of the opposition. But I want to say to the Honourable Maimane, that I know a place where me and you can go. A place where if we go there and provide solidarity to the people who strongly yearn for it, they will not call you a black token. They will welcome your solidarity. They will welcome your message of support, and that place is Palestine. If you're too compromised to go to Palestine, me and you can go to Western Sahara and provide solidarity to the people of those countries, because they deserve it more than you do. Now, but also there are young people, my age and your age, who are traveling the world, who are South Africans, who are sending a good message about this country and who could not be doing what they're doing had it not been of the democratic dispensation. And I'm talking about young people, not DJ Menir, but DJ Black Coffee, who's embraced throughout the whole world. Talking about young people such as Sakina Simbane, who are winning awards throughout the world, who are saying that South Africa is working. And no matter how much you're trying to pull down this country of ours, they are there holding the flag high and saying that they are proud to be South African. When I was growing up, Honorable President, Komudi Mulle, on a 7 or 8, in the dusty street there, we used to have something called Mantlwan. We used to play house, 7, 8 years. Now, we believed so because I had a car, so I was the father, and then someone had, you know, all those things. There were the mother, there were children, and all of that. Now, this morning, or this afternoon during the debate, I realized that I left Honorable Musi Maimane in those days of playing house, of playing Mantlwan. Because he's playing country. There's no way that if you really believe that you can lead this country, and you up here and come here and say, I will double social grants, I will do this, I will do. How are you going to pay those except if you double the tithe in your church?
Honorable
Thank
Deputy
you very
Minister,
much.
your time is expired. Order. Order, honorable members.
Chair.
Order.
Chair.
Why are you rising, honorable member?
No, I've been given this form. It's a summer awards form for honorable.
No, honorable member, that is
Prime
not
Minister of
a point of
Agriculture.
order. Please take your seat. Thank you. Honorable members, that concludes the speakers list and the budget vote debate. Order, honorable members, and the business for the day. The Honorable President will reply tomorrow to this budget vote debate. The House is now adjourned.